Hello, Xers and interwebbers. Welcome to Naive in the 90s, the podcast. I'm your host, Emily. I was a 70s baby, an 80s kid, and a 90s troublemaker. On today's episode, we will be talking with my special guests, Esther and Lily, about teenage pregnancy in the 90s. But first, a quick passage from my book, The Creative Nonfiction, Naive in the 90s, available on Amazon. This reading is going to be just a little bit different than our usual reading. It's going to be a few different snippets from a few different dates because this topic spanned multiple passages, and they are all relevant to today's discussion. So, thanks. February 2nd, 1993, Tuesday. Rebecca is pregnant. Like, for real. A baby. Wowzers. August 25th, 1993, Wednesday. Lily's pregnant. About 3 months. She's keeping the baby. Randy is happy, wants to name it Floyd, girl or boy. That dude is so burnt. November 12th, 1993, Friday. Lily is now, 5 months pregnant, and she got kicked out of her house, and she's living in an apartment with Randy downtown. It's small, but cute. She seems happy, but I don't know. I worry about her all the time. On to Esther. She's no longer home either. She also got kicked out. She lives with Calvin now, who's, of course, living in Westville, so she doesn't go to school anymore. I miss her a lot. I hope she comes back. December 24th, 1993, Friday. Let's see. Oh yeah, Esther's back. And she's also pregnant. I know. What's going on? She's living at Calvin's grandmother's now, which is in town, so she's back in school again. Thank goodness. She misses her family though. Hopefully they'll come around. Lily is still preggo too. 6 months. January 22nd, 1994, Saturday. Rebecca is coming back to school Thursday with Ashley in the baby room. I can't wait. There's at least 20 people pregnant in school. That's insane. What the hell is going on? April 17th, 1994. Lily had her baby. James and I went and saw her yesterday at the hospital. She's so cute. Just a quick note from future editing me. I wanted to apologize for, and of course warn you all about, the upcoming audio. There are a lot of spots where it completely goes out, on and off, and parts where it sounds super jumbled. There are a few different reasons for this, one being that this was the first time having guests, and not just that, but remote guests, and in 2 different states, thousands of miles apart. And we are absolutely not professionals, nor is any of our equipment. And we definitely just have a very curvy learning curve because we don't know what we're doing. Plus, I am just horrible at trying to direct or correct people. But I do promise to keep working on all of it to bring you a better quality show in the future. In the meantime, I hope this isn't too hard to follow, as I truly believe there's some really wonderful information and sharing in the following segment. If anyone has any questions or want words filled in, please do not hesitate to contact me at naiveinthe90s@gmail.com, and I will do my best to fill in any blanks or empty spots. Thank you for understanding and for your patience. Now back to the show.
All right, I'd like to give a little background before we jump into it. Esther, Lily, and I have actually been friends since elementary school. I moved across town after 2nd grade, and I met Esther in 3rd grade, and Lily moved from a neighboring town and started at our school in 4th. To say that we have grown up together while having many similar and adjacent experiences is an understatement. We rode the same school bus, ran with the same crowds, had many of the same friends, and were very much often causing hijinks together from elementary school through high school, when all three of us had our lives go topsy-turvy when we one by one became 90s statistics and teenage moms. And I would like to welcome Lily and Esther to the show. So, hi guys.
Hi.
Okay, so the last book passage that I read for this podcast, it talks about how at least 20 people were pregnant in school. I assume that I might have also meant that on top of everyone who had already had a baby in our school's baby room, but who knows, because it was a million years ago and it wasn't perfect. But I did look up some statistics, and according to the CDC, in 1991, out of 1,000 women, every 1,000 women between the age of 15 and 19, there was 61.8 pregnant girls. By 2020, that has dropped to 15.4 per thousand. I mean, it's drastic, the amount of children basically that were pregnant in the 90s. And those numbers actually only include live births. The estimated numbers for pregnancies in teens that include stillbirths and miscarriages in 1990 peaked at 117.6 out of every 1,000. Like, that number is insane. Like, that's so many. That's over 10% of every female teenager that was pregnant at that time. Like, no wonder there were like 20 of them in our school. In Connecticut alone in 1991, there was 40.1 out of every 1,000. So we were under the national average, but we were still pretty high up there. By 2015, the Connecticut average went down to 10.1 out of every 1,000. And there's a lot of reasons that they think that the number of teen pregnancies have gone down. One of them, which is interesting to me, is that there's a huge decline in girls having sex, like a real like 10% difference from then to now. But the biggest things that have made the difference, I think, are the use of emergency contraceptives. They went from just 8% in 2002 when they really started being used to 23% in 2011. So like a lot, like over double. And long-acting contraceptives have been like the IUD and implants and stuff like that. They went from 0.4% in kids like 15 to 19, 0.4% in 2005 to 7.1% in 2013. So there's been a huge decline. And, you guys know there was tons of people that were pregnant in our school. Mm-hmm. So I just want to start out, how old were you when you got pregnant, and what made you decide that you were going to go through with having your child?
Well, I'll go first. So I'm Esther, and so I was 16 when I found out that I was pregnant, and I decided to go right after it. There was no question in my mind of doing anything else other than that. I wasn't living at home. I moved out of my parents' house, and I was living with my boyfriend and his family. And so, so when I found out that I was pregnant, I was going to go through with it. I personally, for myself, my beliefs, I did not want to do abortion. That was an option for me because it was something that this was my responsibility, and So I felt that I needed to keep that responsibility. I was offered during the time, I was around 4 months pregnant when one of my sisters was pregnant. And so I was offered to go up to Boston from Connecticut for a or second trimester abortion, and I
Oh,
refused.
geez.
And then as it was getting further, my parents, they had offered me $10,000 to give the baby up for adoption. They said that I'd still be alive, but as like an aunt or something like that, because they knew someone
Right.
who would take the baby. And so they offered me money, and I said no. Right after that, my parents were basically like, well, then please make sure not to mention our names, in the paper or anything like that, because it was embarrassment to the family. So
Right.
yeah, but I stuck through, and there was it was always my plan from the beginning, even though it was not planned in the first place. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah. I think back then too, there wasn't as many abortions, or at least there weren't in our neck of the woods, I guess. It wasn't really like talked about, at least. Like I don't remember anyone in high school really, like, everyone got pregnant. It was just like, oh, well, so and so is having a baby now, like,
Well, I think one of the problems of the 90s is that there was no education at all. It was
yeah,
just something that was
yeah,
not really talked about, for
yeah,
teenagers. And so,
yeah. How about you, Lily? How old were you, and what made you decide to keep your baby?
Well, I was 15 when I found out. Um, and honestly, I had had such sporadic periods that by the time I found out, I didn't have a choice. So that's how that worked.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but like Esther, I didn't, obviously, my family did not take it well, and they were going to hide me and then give the kid up for adoption and never speak of it again. Because again,
Mm,
it brought a lot of shame on the families, of that time, of that generation, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so yeah,
We reflected them.
yeah, we made these mistakes. Well, first of all, we were all unwed and having sex, so right there, it means that your parents failed, and so it was hard. I know it was hard. I look back now and I'm like, I was so pissed at the time, but now I'm like, I get it, guys. Like,
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
why you freaked out the way you did. I understand. Like, nowadays it would be different. Like with my kids, I would be like, okay, whatever you want to do. And, I got you. We're fine. But back then it was just a different time.
yeah. No, it absolutely was. But I know for a fact, because I know you guys, your parents all came around. What do you think made the shift? What went from, oh God, this is such an embarrassment, we can't do this, to now, you know, they love their grandchildren. Like what was the turning point?
for me, so again, this is Esther. So for me, older sisters, when I had the baby and was in the hospital, one had her baby literally 2 days before me in the same hospital.
Oh wow.
And so, of course, my mom, would go and, visit her. So one of my sisters, because I have a big family, I have a lot of sisters. So one
Hmm.
of my sisters went to my mom and said, you know what, you can sit there and you can deny, Esther being with Calvin all you want. She said, but you cannot deny that grandbaby
Right.
is your daughter's child. So she says, you cannot deny that. And so my mom, and not in the hospital, but after the hospital, she came to visit. And then my dad was a different story. He didn't communicate with me for a year.
Oh wow.
But my mom was kind of, like I would go over to my parents' house and my dad would just like act as if I was not even there, and the baby not even there.
Right.
My mom would go and take Leo and would put him in my father's arms, and and had said the same thing. Like, this is Esther's child, her son. So you cannot sit there and deny, this child. And so she would sit there, and every day, and that I was there, she would make my dad hold his grandson. And even though at first he get Leo, and he would just like have him in his arms, but didn't even was just like stoic, like, I am not doing this. And then eventually he wound up breaking down, and then kind of interacting a little bit more as time went on. Go to the house, he saw my son more than he saw some of his other grandkids, which are a lot family. So he saw, and he actually got the closest to my son compared to all the other grandkids because we were in their lives. So it was like one of the ones where, he went from not wanting him, to you are, like before my father passed away, he told my son, like, hey, you're going to have to be the man to look after the whole family after I go. So it was, so it was kind of a, it was interesting to watch.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. That's beautiful that it went from that to he's, the man that he leaned on at the end. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. How about you, Lily?
We're gonna play this game now, where everyone should just know that my memory from the 90s is not so good. That's a different podcast. Yes, the 90s. I know that somehow we connected right before I went into labor, because I think I was just pregnant and crossing a road, and my mom was at the stop light, and I didn't even see her. She had contacted me later, and we had talked a bit, and they came to the hospital, and they were there for me for that part.
Right.
Right from the gate, like when she was born, and they put her in their arms, like, they loved her instantly. That was nothing. We still had it from a bunch of family members for a while. I was like, she's not going anywhere, so we're gonna kind of have to figure this out. But, yeah,
we're gonna have to introduce this person that's been hanging around us.
Well, again, it's not even like, she looked like the rest of us, because she has some big blue eyes. Like, where'd you get that kid from?
Yeah, for real.
I got her from her father, who was no help at all. I'm going to tell it. My mother had to come and get me and bring me to the hospital when I was in labor, because Randy was tripping on acid.
Oh,
in the delivery room, when he finally showed up, proceeded to almost pass out, and then the nurses had to clear for him.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm not surprised though. Like,
no.
Like, I just couldn't picture him being like Mr. Supportive, hold your hand guy.
No. Yeah, no.
Which is really sad.
Yeah.
So how about your peers? And I mean, like, your friends and the general, age group and the people that you were around. How was your pregnancy accepted or not accepted? Did you lose friends? Did you make new friends because of it? Like, how did it change your relationship with those around you?
For me, so for Esther, it greatly changed it, because I mean, a lot of the friends that I had, and a lot of so both Calvin and I, we would go and we'd hang out. It's more or less a party scene. Whenever you went anywhere, you went to a party. Who the hell is at a party and pregnant? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically, primarily throughout my pregnancy, So still go to parties and everything, and but I would just stay in the bedroom at our house. It was his grandfather's house, and his mom lived there. Well, the grandfather couldn't know that I was pregnant, because if he knew that I was pregnant, I'd probably get kicked out, because I was only 16 and under the age of 18, and he was over the age of 18, and there's that whole statutory rape in Connecticut, which was threatened to me by my parents. If I didn't go back to school, then they were going to go after him for that. So with me going back to school. So I basically, until the grandfather was known to be like asleep, it was kind of like Anne Frank and the Diary thing, like where I had to be in the bedroom and kind of quiet until he was asleep, and then kind of come out. I had to hide in the upstairs bedroom, pretty much. So Calvin would be out partying, and I would be sitting up there by myself. So that was pretty much my whole pregnancy. I'd go to school, I'd come back, and as soon as I got off the bus, I had to quickly go up to the room. And so yeah, fun.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
It was.
And what about you, Lily? How did it change you and your peer group?
Well, I mean, it was harder for like the school friends. It's not like you can just, like Esther was saying, go and hang out with your friends anymore. Like, you can't. The only problem is that obviously I was dating an idiot, and he would invite people to our house, and I spent a lot of my pregnancy babysitting alcoholics. Yeah, and then like there was a lot that happened all because of that. Like, and then I know we were lucky enough to have a baby program where we were that only allowed 4, and I got in and I was able to bring her to school with me, but like even then the way people interact, what it was is it was like all the boys all of a sudden paid attention because they were like, oh, you put out, and it was like, no, that's not what this means. Also, did you not see what happened from that? And it was just you didn't get to, and that's it. I missed out on everything. I didn't get to go to the proms. I didn't get to go to the dances. I didn't get to go on the trips. I didn't go. You had that overnight thing.
They had trips? I didn't know they had trips.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't go to any of those either, but I didn't even know they were happening.
Esther's like, I was so removed, I didn't even know it happened. Oh no.
You were in the basement, remember?
Which one? Oh. Okay, did you guys find that even strangers treated you different or had a reaction to you being young and pregnant? Or not even just strangers, but like even, your teachers or the mailman or whomever? Like, was it more than just your parents and your friends, I guess?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So when I got very pregnant, I was allowed to have tutors that would meet me at the library and help me write these papers for these classes. But when one of my teachers had found out that I was pregnant, it didn't matter how well written my paper was. Because again, I had a tutor going over the whole thing with me. She would be like, this is a great paper. And she would fail all of my papers.
Oh.
And then, because I knew why she was doing it. Like, she wasn't hiding it. And then there was another one, actually the one who ran the baby program. She definitely Miss Cratchit. Yeah. She was horrible. She would literally say things like, she literally would tell us that we were never going to amount to anything. We ruined our lives. Like to our faces. It's not like she was even trying to be stuff. Oh, and then forced us to take the child education class where we had to babysit an egg. And I'd be like, I have a whole human child. And you're gonna make me carry this damn egg around all day?
I'm carrying a human around.
Yes.
Like, an egg, really?
It was like absolutely unbelievable. And of course you would also get those side looks if you're at the grocery store or whatever, because everybody's going to judge.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, not for nothing, but we all looked very young for our age anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that didn't help at all.
I also want to point out that we all still look good for our age.
We do. Amen.
I think trauma is good for the skin.
See, yeah. That's why we look so young. We'll be young forever. For real. Okay, so did you, I know not really anybody ever feels like they're ready to be a parent, and I'm sure, being a teenager, there's probably another level of not feeling ready, but was there a part of you that you did feel ready for it? Were you like, once you made that decision that you were going to be a parent, was that like, all right, here I am, now I'm going to do this, and you just kind of jumped into it? Or did you have doubts along the way? And, like, how did you feel about getting into it?
Well, I think like for me, because a lot of also going through it, it was kind of like a support group. They had at the town hall a support group for parents.
Right.
They had, like, Lily and I, we would sit there, same thing with Rebecca, and because she already had, and so there was that, and I looked at magazines, like I had like the parenting magazines. I don't know. So it was one of those things where you really don't know what you're getting into, because what it's going to be about, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you're just like, okay, yeah, no, we got this,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
that's how it was for me.
terrified. I had never held a baby in my life until they put her in my arms. And then even then I'm like, uh-oh, I don't know how to change a diaper. I don't know how to need this. And then they're like, okay, you're all set, go home.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of it is just natural. And you're like, okay, I can figure this out. Like, there's only a couple of reasons why she'd be crying, or whatever. I think that the thing that made it the hardest for Esther and I was the fact that we were on our own, like we weren't living at home.
Right.
And at one point, we actually lived in the same apartment building from each other. And
yes, that's fun.
Well,
You need to sit there and do exercising in your apartment. Fitness, come on. Remember Sheer Fitness? And it was Sheer.
I do.
And the lady with the really short hair, and they were sitting there and they would make us kick our butts.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean,
Squeeze,
so
release.
It was hard.
Release.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that part. It was that again, we were in similar situations where we were also dealing with alcoholic drug addicts.
Right. Right.
Yep.
So you didn't have family support, and you didn't have partner support, which I mean is both of those are separate, extra stresses on top of everything.
Yeah, I think that's why we had each other to talk to. And I think again too, like I know I kept what was going on in my house quiet anyway, because I was embarrassed and I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want anyone to know that, he was wasted constantly.
All right. So, what is one thing you wish you knew before you got pregnant?
Well, one thing that I really wish that I knew, or someone had told, was cocoa butter. and prevention of stretch marks. I will be honest, the queen of stretch marks, and I never once rubbed any kind of stretch marks, cocoa butter or whatever on my stomach because I didn't know about that, and it shows. And
I
so
agree.
And that your boobs were gonna leak.
Yes. Even
Yeah.
before you had the baby, your boobs leak.
Yeah, you like
Yeah.
wake up in bed in a puddle and you're like, what in the heck? That was horrible.
Okay. What
Yeah.
goal, did you guys have any goals from before you were pregnant? And like how did those goals change? And did you achieve any of them, or did you just do a 180 and just change everything up?
Well, my goal changed. I mean, I didn't really have, I always knew about wanting to be in the medical field. So kind of still, right after I had my son, I kind of let go of those goals at first because I didn't think that was achievable for me. It was about a year after my graduation, and my son was around a year old, where it was actually Rebecca who came to me and was like, hey, because she was going to college, and she says, there's this thing called a Pell Grant for single moms that you can take advantage of, and you can go to school, and so that you're not kind of stuck, and so I started looking into it, and I started my education at that point in time. So, I mean, I was very grateful for that grant. That allowed me, and I did wind up going down the path that I wanted to before I was pregnant, and all, even, so I was able to eventually get my life back on track. It was just kind of a different route, so to say, to go down, and it was a little bit more hard, but
Right.
so it derailed for a little bit, but it came back.
Yeah, being pregnant kind of throws you for a whole loop. Yeah, everything just became about the baby, and then getting out of that crappy relationship, and then trying to figure my life out. I didn't really get my crap together until I was almost 30, and that's when I went to college. And now I have a really good life, but there was a lot of time on the struggle bus. And not knowing what direction to go into, especially like when you don't go to school right away, because then you're like, well, what? And I had a second child at 23 and stayed home with her until she was 8. So I had been out of the workforce for 8 years too.
Right.
And so, I was fluent in Dora the Explorer, but I didn't really have any skills.
You knew where all of Blue's Clues were, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I was afraid I didn't even have people skills anymore, but then I went back to school, and I tried a few different paths, and I ended up on the right one.
That's good. Yeah. I kind of feel like even though the road is a little bit bumpier, I think we all kind of end up where we're supposed to, no matter what.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sure the traditional route of going to college, on your own as a single independent, now, supposed grown up is a little bit easier because you get that time to explore and, find out who you are. But I kind of also feel like, being a parent so young, it does give us an extra layer of, I don't know if maturity is the right word, but
you know what it was, is that I think because we had all these labels thrown us that we weren't ever going to really amount to anything, I think it put that extra pressure on us to be better. Like, I almost didn't graduate from high school, but when I was 30 and I had to take the Accuplacer test to get into college, I scored a perfect on the English part, and I got right into the maths. Like, And I was on the president's list, you know, most of the time. And it was just, I think it was because of all of that, though. It was always that, like, oh, you're just, you know, first it was like, you're just a housewife, you're home with your kid, or, you know, oh, you're a pregnant teenager, you must not be that smart. It made me feel like I had to prove myself. And then it's also because when you're in your 30s and you're going to college with 18-year-olds and they're telling you C's get degrees and you have to try not to strangle them because you want to be
Right.
it was like a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
That is true. And I mean, another thing too is that, you know, for me, having my son so young, that we were hanging out with, like, half the people are dead right now.
Yeah, no, that is true.
Think about it. For me, my son was basically, for me, kind of like a lifesaver, because I would have totally went head streaming down the wrong road and probably would be dead right now, if not seriously addicted to, you know, heroin or whatever. But you know, Lord knows what else. And, you know, so it kind of, you know, what I had to go through, it was really like, hey, get your ass back on the right track, because you're, you know, going down the wrong road. And so, so that's one of the ways how I see it too.
Oh,
I totally agree.
100%. I actually tell my daughter all the time that she saved my life, because I was 100% in a very bad place. The amount of drugs that were being taken were just not okay. The amount of drinking. I remember maybe a month before I got pregnant with her, standing in the middle of the road, and like not even on the yellow line, but like in the middle of one side of the road, on so much acid that I thought there were dragons in the trees. And everyone was yelling, you know, get out of the road. And I'm like, why? What are they going to do? They don't want to break their car. They're not going to hit me. But really, there was something in me that was so broken that I was just kind of tempting the fates. And I feel like if I hadn't gotten pregnant when I did, I wouldn't have survived the year, to be honest with you. Yeah. And like, you know, after having Jessica, she turned my life around completely. Like, I didn't have a sip of alcohol for like her first year that she was even alive. I like not even look at it, because I was like, I can't do that. I can't, you know, be that person or any kind of anything. I need to be an adult, even though, I mean, we were not adults.
No.
Hold on. Sorry.
If you could go back in time and change things, would you do it, or would you do it all over again?
I wouldn't change a thing, because my son, here I am, I'm 45, and he is 28 now. He's married. He's in the military. He has 2 daughters of his own now. And I love my family to death, and I can't imagine a life without them. So I would absolutely go through all that I went through back then and be told all the negative things that I was told back then, shunned, all that for him. Absolutely never change that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with that part of it. The thing I think I would change would be the part when I told Randy I was pregnant and he tried to break up with me. I would have let him go.
Yeah.
That would be it. Keep the baby 100%. Yes, I wouldn't change. Well, you know, that's just it. It's like, it's silly to think about, because you're like, that's my kid. I love my kid. Like, and same thing. You know, I have a granddaughter now too, thanks to her. Like, I have this beautiful family. Like, that's the having the child part is not the part I would change. There are things to redo with the other things.
Yeah, so you would not change being a young mother. You would change or change, you know, having your kid. It's more, you would change the circumstance, or maybe how you went about for your future.
Yeah.
Me too. But I guess hindsight is 20/20, right?
Oh, God,
because if I had waited later or anything, I can't guarantee that I would have had him and what I have right now.
Right.
you know?
Right. Yep. 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 Agreed. All right. So, do you guys have any advice for any teens who find themselves pregnant or ones that are already teen moms? Do you have any advice or any words of wisdom to give to them?
My advice to them, so if they are a teen already that has a child,
Mhm.
there is so much assistance out there for you. There are people, there are support groups. There are going to be some people that are going to sit there and turn around, shun their heads or whatever, or whisper things behind your back. But you're not alone, and there's so much help out there to help you to still have your goals and have the family, have a nice stable family. So there's assistance out there. For those who are pregnant currently, again, that support is out there. There is, some people right now, they may be sitting there and whether they should keep the baby, questioning whether, they should give the baby up for adoption, questioning, whether they should, abort the baby. That's, obviously that's a personal choice and all of that. But in all of that, there are don't think you have to make those decisions yourself. You can go to some support groups and you can, definitely talk with someone, because the decision that you make is going to affect you for the rest of your life. I had all three options presented to me when I was pregnant. I had the option for a second term abortion, I had the option for adoption, and I had the option to keep. And when I sit there and I look back at I think for myself, I made the best option, because the other two options, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. And I can't even imagine what I would be, if things were different. So find that support out there, and there's you're not less than anything, because me as a 16-year-old mom, I had been able to be successful as a mom. I was a great mom. And there are some people who are in their late 30s having kids, and they fail.
Horrible.
You see it on TV all the time. So age does not, just because you're a teen mom, you're a failed mom. You can be an amazing mother. You can be an amazing parent, and you can have an amazing and then you can be a young grandmother, and be able to go out and do all the things you want to do when you couldn't do it as a teenager. And instead of being a MILF, you'll be a GILF. So
I like that.
So yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I have to. Yeah, I'm gonna go along with that same thing. That there are definitely all kinds of programs out there now to help you with that, and with whatever stage you're in. And I think that one of the big things I want to tell people is that you do not have to stay with the father to be your therapy to figure out that problem. Is that the reason why I always stayed in horrible situations was because I thought that was the right thing to do. Like, you have a baby with someone, you stay with him. No, you don't do it. And do what's best for you and your child. And if you're pregnant and you have to make that decision, I know it's a hard one, because I have two children, but I did have one abortion. And honestly, looking back on all of it, all the decisions I made were the right decisions at that time. Because I said earlier, if I hadn't had my daughter when I did, I would probably be dead too. And then the second one, I was in a really bad situation. I couldn't have two children in that kind of situation. But by the time I had my second child, I was in a much better space, and I was able to make sure that it was going to be loved and cherished. So you've just got to talk to someone and make the right decision for you. But there are, and take all the help that's offered.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yes. I think that's super important. I think it's really easy for people to get into a position where they don't know how to accept help, and that it can be really detrimental to you to not ask for help or accept it.
Yeah.
And I also think it's important to know, because like I didn't know all the birth control options back then. I knew the birth control.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there is IUDs, you know, and a lot of times as a teenager, you may not know that. I'll repeat it again. We had, at least for myself, my sex education was, if a guy sits there and says that he loves you, he just wants sex. That's the only sex ed I ever had, you know?
Yeah.
No, we watched Miracle Birth, remember?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I was probably sitting there and doodling in a book or something like.
Oh my God! They showed us one diagram of a penis that don't touch it, and then showed us a baby being born, and that was the
baby being born. Ooh.
Yeah.
I remember the baby being born. I remember watching that video. I remember the videos in like elementary school about like having my period.
Your period.
I don't remember anything about sex. I don't remember anything about sex. They left that out. I was out of school that day. Maybe they warned my parents, and my mom was like, "Oh no, she's not going to learn about that." You know?
Yeah.
So
I
don't know.
feel like the only thing I remember is they told us we'd get pregnant or we'd get a disease.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember passing the M&M.
Yeah.
Remember that? I don't know if you guys remember that. Like whoever had like the red M&M or something like that. Whoever got AIDS.
Yep.
I remember that.
I do remember that.
Yeah. So I do.
Our heads. I know we did.
Remember that. So yeah. So but like with the contraceptive, so you have the pill, but there's the IUD. There's injections that you can get like, you know, like every so often, you know, monthly. You have the injection into the arm, like the little device that they can put in the arm. And then, but there's also the emergency, you know, plan B, which you can buy I know you can buy it like at a pharmacy, which is basically like birth control pill, but it's like in a higher dose so you can have a period. And then the last thing is that if it's within, I want to say 7 days after having unprotected sex, you can go and IUD placed, not the Mirena, but if you have the Paragard placed, it's supposed to be in another form of emergency contraceptive. So you have within like 7 days after unprotected sex, you know, if there's, you know, God forbid, like a family rape or a rape from a stranger, or rape from a family member, a party or something like that, you can just go and get that inserted, you know, within a week. And that is supposed to prevent from the egg from attaching. Yeah. So, so those are some options that a lot, I don't think realize are out there, but it's there.
Yeah. I totally
You know what
agree.
I wanted to know is I don't know what the laws are here, but how old can you be to go to like to do something like that? Could you go to a Planned Parenthood on your own? Like how young is that?
I want to say like out here in the state that I live, which is in Arizona. So out here in Arizona, it's 16.
Yeah, I think it's 16 here too.
Yeah, it's 16. It might even be younger because I know like you don't at 16 to 18, you don't need a parental consent. And I think if it has anything to do with birth control, there is not a parental consent that's needed. So I think younger than that. I'd have to look at the laws, but the laws, I mean, you can just sit there and look at the state laws and stuff and just see, because it is, you don't need a parent to go. The hard thing, though,
that's the big thing is if we were able to have access to birth control without having to ask our parents, like things would have been a lot different. And again, not that I want to change. I'm just saying is that you know we had
there was no birth control. Closest Planned Parenthood was like 2 towns over where we were. You know, there was none in our town. Now they're like, you know, pretty much. But even like, I didn't know you can sit there and go to any OBGYN. I thought you had to go to a Planned Parenthood. I didn't know you could go to any OBGYN when I was younger. You can go to any. anyone who is like a gynecologist, and they you can even go to a walk-in center. You can go to your town's like the community, health center.
Clinics. Yep.
Yeah, the community health center. They do women's health and primary care and all that other stuff, and they do that as well. So it's not like you have to go to like a Planned Parenthood and like 2 towns over and have to figure out a ride. You just go downtown, or wherever it is inside of your your town. So it's available.
I would just like to point out too, real quick, with the morning after pill, they are not as effective for anyone over the weight of 175 pounds. That's not really told or like made clear to a lot of people, so it doesn't work sometimes, and that's why. So
there's a weight limit to a pill?
There is a weight limit to the morning after pill, the Plan B. And it's 175. It's like not as effective, or I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like it's a big difference. So just
yeah, that one I think only once I had to take that. I took that pill once, and man, like my stomach was. I've had like serious cramps that day, but
I heard it's not fun, at all.
Makes you have the period. Come on. It's just like, hey, I'm sorry, but you're like erupting this uterus out of your crotch right now. That's basically what it is.
It's like, you will be out. Get out. Get out.
Okay. Right now for the next 10 days. Bye.
Oh God. I'm so glad I don't have a uterus anymore.
Me either.
No. Yeah. All right. Let me finish up, you guys. I just want to ask a couple fun questions that have to do with the 80s and 90s to wrap this up, and then that'll be it. So, just for fun, what's your favorite 80s or 90s movie?
Favorite 80s or 90s what?
Movie.
Back. Well, can I say 2? So I really liked Aliens. Like, I was an Aliens fiend, and it was because of the guy that was in there, Corporal Hicks. So that was crush. And then the other one was Goonies. Like, who didn't like Goonies?
Yep.
Yeah. Who didn't love
Goonies? For me too. Goonies.
Mm-hmm. Goonies forever. Yes. Goonies never die.
Yes.
Okay, so what about a favorite 80s or 90s song?
I don't think I have a favorite.
No? Not even like Baby Got Back?
Well, that's it. I was like
mine probably would be Living on a Prayer. I loved Bon Jovi, and living along with the Renegades or whatever the heck those were, the Emilio Estevez on the horses.
Oh yeah, the Young Guns. Yes.
So that so that I rocked out to Living on a Prayer. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I had very eclectic music taste. That's why I think it would be too hard, because I love me my Beastie Boys, and but then I also have my Slayer posters, and then listen to rap and R&B, like all of the LL Cool J. He's still hot.
Oh, he is.
It would be too hard to narrow it down to just one.
Yeah. I think it would be easier to say the ones I'm over. Like, I'm so just tired. Like, I'm tired of AC/DC and Van Halen. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to get hate for that, but I'm just, enough. Enough. Please stop playing them all the time.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry about that. That was kind of weird.
At least it wasn't Living on a Prayer. Then we'd be like, all right, what are you doing?
Hey,
as a matter of fact, I'm going to listen right now.
MC Hammer, come on. MC Hammer was also pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. At the middle school dances, come on.
Oh yeah.
Play. We had Kid and Play. And Salt and Pepper. Those were our dance songs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Those junior high dances were just ridiculous. And like CNC Music Factory and like the Humpty Dance.
I think that's where I lost some of my hearing because I have like chronic tinnitus.
Oh yeah, same.
No.
Same. Especially because our group of people like to hang out in front of the speakers.
Yes, I know. Yeah, we did.
That was
and my ears would be ringing for like a week. So
yeah, me too. Same. Totally same. It's like the car ride home with my mom. She'd be talking and I just wouldn't hear anything. Just kind of smile and nod. Yeah.
So yep. So that's a naive, exactly a naive thing that we did.
Oh yeah.
Now everyone's like, now even our iWatches have the decibel things that warn us when it's too high.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, just a couple more. And what was a poster that you had on your childhood wall?
Just one?
Corey Haim.
No, Corey Haim, yes. I had Luke Perry over my bed, like on my ceiling, just looking down at me all stoically, brooding.
I have too. Yep. Oh my god.
God, yeah. Oh, what's his name? Sebastian Bach.
Yes, me too. I had like the metal pages.
I had the guy from Winger too. Do you remember him?
Winger. Oh no, Kip Winger. No.
He had fucking hairy chest and wild hair. Oh,
yes,
that explains a lot now. Actually, looking back.
Yes. You've always had a type.
Yeah.
Okay, and all right, last one, guys. What would you tell your 15-year-old self if you had the chance to?
What would I tell my 15-year-old self if I had a chance to do it?
I know, it's a hard one. Shit.
Honestly, stay away from Fred.
See, I can't even do that because I got my beautiful second baby from my second idiot. Leave sooner, or oh my god, if anything, it'd be like start therapy at like 25.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, no, I that therapy one I think is chef's kiss.
You need therapy.
Yeah.
If I had therapy like in my 20s, I wouldn't have stayed as long, and I don't know, because that's the thing. You're always like, I love where I am right now. Maybe that's what I should just tell like her. Like, you're gonna love where you are when you're 45. First of all, you're gonna be hot. All right, you're gonna have a nose and an awesome job and a cool house and 3 cats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like that. So we should all tell our 15-year-old selves that our 45-year-old selves are hot as hell and cool as shit. We did okay, ladies.
That's right.
Yes, we did. Not only did we survive, we are thriving.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I just want to thank you guys so much for sharing your stories and your experiences with me. I really, really appreciate it. Because I know this stuff isn't really.
Just so you all know, Dad found a can of Aquanet, so I got it covered.
Oh no, no. I have toyed with the idea of doing the bangs right now, like just to see what it looks like. And like,
I think it's funny that like I know there were 80s, 90s bangs, which were horrifying. I love that I circled back around the bangs. I have a new love relationship with bangs. It's different, but also wonderful.
Yeah.
I was the bangs in high school. Oh
90s bangs and even the mullet is back. Have you seen the amount of mullets that have been around?
I've never seen the full mullet I've ever seen in my life, though. I was in a bar and this guy walked in and we all had to stop and look because it was the most perfect 80s. It was like shaved on the sides, curly on the top, curly in the back, just the right length. It looked greasy. He even had the mustache going on and flannel. And I was like, that man just stepped right the hell out of the 80s. Like, look at that shit.
I don't know where you guys are finding your men, because half the men that are around here where I live, they're all.
Esther's like, I would take a mullet any day.
They got hair? You got hair still? What? It all fell off their head and went down to their face. Jeez.
Yeah. But thank you guys. Thank you so much. And I don't know. I love you both.
And you.
Oh, thank you. It was fun.
It was fun, and we should do it again on maybe a happier topic.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah,
wait, I want to do one dedicated to where we hang out and party.
Okay, so there we go. The first time having guests on here, the audio was not great, or at least definitely was not consistent, and I do apologize for that. I did try to edit out most of the gaps and the dogs barking. Those were my dogs and then Esther's dogs. So, and then just some random thises and that's and whatever that popped up. I tried to clean it up a bit without, changing too much. But yeah, audio was not the best. I'm going to keep working on that as I do have more guests lined up for future episodes. Unlike Esther and Lily, I was no longer in school when I became pregnant. I was actually a few months out of high school. I was technically an adult since I had turned 18 a few months prior, but 18 and 19 are still considered, and rightly so, teenagers. Not just by me, myself, but for the base numbers for the statistics from the beginning of this episode. And honestly, even if I was legally an adult, I was very far from actually being one. And although I fully agree with Lily and Esther about how I would never trade either of my kids or our family, having kids so young and unexpectedly did definitely change the entire trajectory of my life and how I went about everything from that time on. And I'm sure how my children's lives were ultimately too. Parenthood is not something to enter into lightly, and it is most definitely not for everyone, and that's okay. The discussion was, in my opinion, great though. Lots of real talk about how hard the day-to-day could be, as well as the added bumps in the general path for young parents in general, but also specifically as teen moms who were dealing with extreme, but not even close to isolated circumstances. The realness of the sometimes harshness of reality paired with the overall positive outcomes due to struggle, hard work, patience, perseverance, and of course deep love is truly a testament to the strength of these two women. They have my utmost respect, along with the countless other people that have had to step up to responsibility when they least expected it or didn't think they were capable, whether that be mentally, emotionally, physically, or financially. Yet somehow they came out the other end. They did what they needed to do to get it done. They may have emerged a bit battle-scarred and tarnished, but also stronger, wiser, happier, and hopefully where they're supposed to or want to be, and if not fully, then well on their way. For teens who find themselves pregnant or in a parenting situation, please look into local assistance. Most areas do, in fact, have different programs to help, but also look into bigger organizations and programs nationwide. There are quite a few, regardless of circumstance. Whether you need help medically or with food, finances, housing, or even stuff like mental health, childcare, transportation, relationship issues, and way more. There really is a lot out there. You do not have to suffer or go through any of it alone. Ask for help. It is out there. If you cannot figure it out, by all means, email me at naiveinthe90s@gmail.com and I will help point you in the right direction. I am rooting for you, no matter your choice or decision. Just please ask for help from friends, family, programs, anything. So I'm a total geek and can't help it. So I'm going to make a Last Kingdom reference here and close this all out by saying, destiny is all. But destiny is what we make of it. What we do when we are faced with circumstances we are not prepared for. Choices we make, each affecting our lives and those connected to us. Choices that we must make by choosing what is right for us at the time, and following through with whatever may come in the best way possible for a fulfilling and happy future for all of those involved. Life is not easy. It is complicated, often messy and hard at times. But out of the chaos, a lot of amazingly beautiful and irreplaceable moments and connections can arise, making it worth it. Bumps, curves, detours, and all. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Naive in the 90s, the podcast. I hope you come back in 2 weeks for a new episode. For any questions, comments, feedback, or contributions to the conversation, send me a message at naiveinthe90s@gmail.com or connect with me on social media with the handle @naiveinthe90s on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And of course, don't forget to grab your copy of the creative nonfiction book, Naive in the 90s, now available on Amazon. I'd like to give a very special thank you to my 2 guests, Esther and Lily. And of course, thank you again for joining. Hope to see you again next time. Peace and love, my dudes.